to the Success After Barber School podcast, where we give advice to new and seasoned barbers on how to reach a six-figure income through training, mentoring, and coaching. If you're new in our industry or old in our industry and are ready to join the top 1% in earning a six-figure income, this is the show for you. Welcome back to Success After Barber School podcast. I'm your host, Mr.T.I.M, the educator. Today our guest is the lovely Miss Megan, the barber. Big head. Let's go.
Female barber. Let's just correct that real quick.
Well, I think if they can't figure that out from your name alone, we're going to have a whole nother issue to have. So either way, I know I just mentioned your name, but answer me these three questions, right? Give me your name, first and last, where you're from, and how long you've been a barber.
My name is Megan Ewing. I'm from Waukesha, Wisconsin, and I have not left, just like Chelsea. And
You've been a barber for how long?
Oh, no, sorry. I've been a barber it'll be 3 years in August.
So tell us how and why you started, because you originally went to school for cosmetology. So what made you decide to just kind of hard left and come to us?
That was a definite hard left. So like I said, like you said, I was in cosmetology school. I originally wanted to go for makeup, so literally 360. And when I was there, I like to do the women's hair. I was getting into it, and then I didn't like it because it was just, I don't know, it didn't click. When something just doesn't feel right. And we had a barber come in, and we had to cut an afro, right? Literally, I was so into it, like cutting a perfect circle. I was so into it. And everyone else was like, yeah, and I loved it. And then we had our externship program. And I came in and I met you. And I came into the shop and I just loved it. Like the whole atmosphere, like it just clicked naturally. It's just like when you meet the love of your life, you're like, oh, ooh, I know this is the one, because barbering damn near is the love of my life. Sorry.
That's awesome. I love that. So, why is mastering your craft important?
Mastering your craft is definitely important, but you'll never be perfect.
Right.
You always have to, you'll aim for perfection, but you always have to learn something, right? But making sure you can do the best that you possibly can do in that moment is definitely very important, because you want to make your clients happy. You want to make everyone around them be like, wow, they look great, and then they'll feel confident. And mastering your craft isn't even just about the haircut alone. I feel like it's about making your client feel good in themselves.
Okay. So let's be honest, right? Let's get real for a second. Coming fresh out of school, right? First day on the shop, ready to cut hair and whatnot. What was that transition like for you? Because I remember you being a little nerve-wracked, and I had to say it 3 times, folks. So, explain that for us.
I was so nervous, but, you threw me, like everyone will say when they're learning from you, you kind of just made, you were, get right into it, you can't be in your head too much. So that, and I was obviously way in my head, right? But, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It was really hard to explain.
So, what I remember, the first, because it was a 6-month process before I felt like I could just let you go and I didn't have to watch over your shoulder anymore. Thank you, sir. It was, the first 4 months was me talking you off the wire and reminding you, that you weren't in school anymore, because every time I would try and teach you somewhere, that's not how they taught us in school.
Yeah.
And then I remember the day it clicked, I got the right wording, and that's when it started to transition into the direction I needed you to go, and that wording was, consider this grad school. How was that education more like grad school than cosmetology school for you, in your words?
You were, when it comes to grad school, I feel like, I've never been in grad school, but anyways, it's more direct and straight to the point, and what you're doing, you're getting kind of into the nitty gritty and what you're actually trying to focus on. Mm-hmm. So cosmetology school obviously is like any other school when you're trying to go towards that exam, right? So that's state boards, right? So a lot of it was safety and sanitation and the basics, where with you it was more, this is what you need to do, and this is the nitty gritty about it, right? So it was very in detailed about actual barbering. It wasn't just abroad. It was very narrow, and it was we would work at one thing at a time. So it was very nice to be hands-on too, because I was right next to you. So just learning, it was just a different way of learning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were very specific, and you were very about like taking one thing at a time. Sorry, I know I repeat myself, but that's what it was, you know. It was not worrying about what was going around me. It was more or less like focusing in on that one thing that I was nervous about in general, which was cutting men's hair, because I've never really like learned to do it in school, you know?
Right.
And feeling like, okay, now it's more about me, and like what I can do is very specific towards me, if that makes sense.
Is there a specific moment at the barber shop where you felt like, I get it? Like, do you recall that moment?
No, but that's because I'm very scatterbrained sometimes. If we're being honest here. Honestly, I don't even remember the exact day, but I remember it was a haircut, and I think it was because I got a new clipper, actually. And it clicked. Like, it was just like, wow. Like, I can really do this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not perfect whatsoever, but I'm making progress.
Right.
You know, like, even to this day, like, when I'm in the shop and I do a haircut that I feel like I've done a lot better than I have in the past, it's just like, wow. Like, I really did that. And it makes you feel crazy, even after doing it for so long. Like, there's still those moments where you're like, wow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
What was the most challenging haircut you had to learn?
Probably like a bald fade, because there's so many, I kept getting lines. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really learn to work with your clipper and work with multiple clippers.
Yeah.
That was my thing. Like, I thought I was one thing. Use the same clipper, same guards, everything, and basically go step by step.
Right.
When in reality, you have to go with the flow, and you really have to work it into the haircut. You know what I mean? It's not just a steps type of thing. It's a gradual thing that you have to learn. It's hard to explain in words.
So, being almost 3 years at the barber shop right now, what would be something you would tell your younger barbering self?
It gets easier.
I love that. I love that. Definitely. So what other platforms did you use to educate yourself? Because it wasn't just me all the time educating you and everything. Eventually, you know, I kind of took the training wheels off and focused on what I was doing because you were able to move on your own. So where else did you continue your education?
I was definitely on YouTube all the time. And, like, obviously TikTok, stuff like that. And just watching other barbers inspired me to do better. Like, to this day, I will watch people and be like, wow, okay, what did they do? How did they do to get there? And consistently teaching myself different ways and different techniques, because everything, no matter what it is you're doing in life, so it's always going to progress. It's always going to do something different. It's always going to change. So you want to see, oh, how can I make this easier? You know, so YouTube and TikTok, and actually starting to go to barber shows and competitions and watching these people who are phenomenal.
Right.
And you're like, wow, like, what am I doing compared to what they're doing? You know, that was kind of like my mindset. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, right? What was your lowest point in the barbering world, in the barbering profession? Like, what was that moment, right, when you went home and you doubted yourself? Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what was that?
Okay. So my sister brought my nephews in, and you were gone. This was like one of the first days you were gone, and I was by myself with everyone else. And I gave a haircut, and I literally went from like a 2 to a 1, and there was just a huge line. But I thought it looked great. Like, I thought it was amazing. And a few weeks later, my sister's was like, oh, yeah, no, we took him somewhere else. It's okay. Like, I just had to do something, right? Totally made an excuse. And then my nephews, who are young boys, were like, oh, yeah, our dad told us it sucked and you'd never cut her hair again. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
But, like, obviously they're boys, so they exaggerated it a little bit.
Right.
But still, I was like, wow, like, I did a bad job.
How many times have you cut them since that day?
10, 12. Like,
safe to say you're their barber now?
Yeah, but they go a long time without haircuts, too. So they're young still, so they don't like to get their haircuts.
Fair enough. So let me ask you this, right? You know what a dream board is, right?
Yes.
Do you have one, even if it's a mental one?
Yes.
What's one thing on your dream board in regards to barbering? And let me be a little more specific. What's one thing that you want to accomplish in the next 6 months and in the next 12 months?
Ooh, that's hard. 6 months. I want to... Ooh, I'm sorry. I was not prepared for that. In 6 months, I really want to just gain more clientele. I mean, I don't, obviously, my clientele's not bad, but
Right.
it's not where I want it to be, which nothing's ever where I want it to be. But, and in 12 months, I want to be, I want to make enough to where I'm on my own.
Okay, that's a real goal. That's a real goal.
You know, I mean, I'm young, just turned 21. Like,
Right.
you know, I'm still at home with my parents, no shame in it. But it's like I'm making enough where I could be on my own, but not comfortably.
Okay, I'm glad. Let's pause just for a second. So check this out, right? You've heard me say a million times, like, what I'm trying to do here is help young barbers right out of school get 0 to 60 in the 1st 3 years of being done with school. I think I'm on pace to help you do that, and I don't think you realize how close you are because you don't watch the numbers like I watch the
Yeah,
numbers.
no.
You made $4,000 last month.
No, I know, and I didn't.
Compared to last year at this time, you barely broke 1,000,
Yeah, that was.
and you still haven't scratched the surface of your worth yet.
It's crazy to me because I was looking at rent and moving out, and it was so discouraging. And then I'm like, I don't even think I make that much. But then I looked at the reports. I was like, holy, what?
Yep.
Like, that's crazy. But because you're getting cash, you don't realize how
Right.
much it is being saved. You know.
So perfect segue. How important is it to budget your cash, like to actually accountability?
It's very important. I mean, if you could fall off the wagon real quick, you know what I mean? Especially just having all this cash, you're like, oh, wow, well, if I did it this month, I'm going to do it next month, or this week, I'm going to do it next week. And then you don't realize, like, not every day is going to be a perfect day, right?
Tell us about Uncle Sam.
Ooh, he comes in full swing. This year, well, depending on how you do your taxes and stuff like that, I pay mine every 3 months.
Yeah, me too.
So it's over 900 for me.
Right.
And it's like, I owed last year, and
So did
that
I.
threw me off guard. I was like, how? You know, like, how? But it comes in full swing, and you really got to focus on it and budget your money. Don't be embarrassed to ask your parents because they know what they're doing, because that's what I do.
Facts.
That's my personal help right there.
So in the field, in the 4 areas of sales, marketing, operation, how you run your business, and the financing books, can you give us one major key in either one of those 4 categories?
Marketing yourself is definitely the biggest thing that you can do.
Be more specific.
1,000%.
How
but
are you doing it?
Me,
Yep.
personally, I put myself out on social media a lot. I'm a 21-year-old girl. I do it all the time. So what I do is I post. I go past my, self-esteem, like, oh, it doesn't look that great, like, blah, 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 because what I don't think looks great looks amazing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just always doubting yourself. But marketing yourself on social media, putting yourself out there, and also putting yourself out there in the community of barbering, because I went to 2 barber competitions.
Right.
And that changed it changed the game for me 1,000%. The first competition, I met an amazing barber who is a celebrity barber, and he gave me advice. He follows me on Instagram now, and
Name them.
sorry,
Give
I
'em a
didn't know I was
shout-out.
supposed to. Kenny Duncan, he really did kind of boost my confidence. You know, he
Yes.
was like, wow, you're doing great. Like, I was maybe 1 out of 2 females in that competition, and he
Right.
gave me advice and, just kind of made me feel like, wow, I can do this,
Have
And
you been able to keep the lines of communications open with Mr. Duncan?
yes.
Would you call him a mentor?
Yeah, he's busy, so I mean,
course he
when
is.
I reach out, he tends to get back to me pretty quickly. So I'm thankful and blessed for that. So
For all the young barbers out there, how important is it to have a mentor, someone that can guide you through the process from just starting out 2 years in, 3 years in, someone that you can use to keep your iron sharp, you know what I mean?
it's super important because you're gonna have days where you feel like, wow, I'm off track, I'm not doing as well, but then you'll have someone to let you know you're doing great. And like having someone that's been there, has done that, and they can mentor you into a better mindset, whether it's about your job or whether it's about life in general, because if the way you think is how you're going to live your life. If you're thinking
Facts.
negatively, you're going to live a negative life, you know?
Facts.
So just having someone who's a motivator to be motivated,
It's okay.
to motivate you in a positive direction is just, it's going to take your life in a completely different way, and you're going to do great. And no matter what anyone says or around you, you're going to do great regardless. So
Awesome. So I tell my kids this often. You're gonna have days where you don't feel like getting out of bed. You don't feel like keeping your obligations and whatnot, but you already got an entire list of people, clientels that are booked that are depending on you. Have you found on those days where you say, forget it, I'm keeping my commitment, are those days often better than what you anticipated?
Always.
Because you worked through and passed the negative thoughts in your own head?
Always.
How so? Be specific.
Literally getting out of bed is the hardest part.
Right.
Because I'm lazy, but that's a fun fact about me. But
Awesome.
but getting out of bed, and then when you get in your car and then you start to feel better, you're listening to music, and then when
Yeah.
you get into the community of all the people you work with, all your clients, like, you just feel great. You know what I mean? Everyone brings something different to the table, different conversations, and it just motivates you to get through the day.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you love what you do, when you start to do it, you're great, you know? I'm really bad with words. I'm sorry, guys.
What's something about your industry that has surprised you today or lately? What's one thing about our industry that has surprised you lately?
The demographics.
How so?
There's not as many female barbers as I thought, you know?
Really?
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit more. And now that, I'm working with a group of female barbers that are amazing and motivating, and it's like we're really trying to put out there that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all the different stories that I've heard from people who wanted to do it, but they're too scared, like, that surprises me.
Well, working with men can be intimidating when you're offering a service in regards to how they look, like they're going to wear that until it grows out and whatnot. So I get that.
Definitely
get that.
just like I said, the demographics and like how many people don't put themselves out there like they should, because they're great, so.
What's giving you hope right now? What's keeping you moving forward?
The girls that I work with, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I see them every day doing amazing things, and I know that I could get there, and I know that, like, there's people around me that have done it, so I know I can do it. It's a very motivating thing, knowing that, like, there's always room for growth. So if you work yourself to it, you can do it.
Okay, we're gonna get and dig a little deep now, right? What do you struggle with? Like anxiety, what do you struggle with here? Like, how does that affect you in the moment of doing your job?
I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. That's definitely been a thing. So when little things can set you off. So with me, I just really have to focus on all the methods that I've learned growing up.
Like what?
Breathing, thinking positive thoughts, redirecting your thoughts, because everyone's going to have intrusive and negative thoughts. So whether that's about anything, you know what I mean? So you just really have to take deep breaths and redirect your thoughts into a positive mindset and just surround yourself with positive people, because they will definitely bring you up, compared to if you have negative people. They're like, oh, you have nothing to worry about, like freaking you out more.
Yeah.
But having positive people that you call family around you is definitely.
I love it. What's one question you wished I would have asked you?
Ooh. That's hard. I think you kind of covered it all, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I don't really have an answer for you.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
Self-esteem.
Yeah, elaborate.
Self-esteem affects everything you do. If you don't feel great about yourself, you're not going to feel great about the work that you do, the friendships you have. You're going to self-doubt everything if you don't have faith in yourself.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of people in general need to work on it, because you're great and no one can tell you that you're not. And
Right.
you have to love yourself before you can love anything. So I would definitely
All right.
put that out there.
Well, folks, that's been our segment for today, and I thank you again for tuning in to the Success After Barber School podcast. Again, I've been your host, Mr.T.I.M, the educator. Our guest today was the lovely Megan, the female barber. Appreciate you, folks. Until the next time. Welcome back to the Motivational Minute. The hardest thing to do is to get started. Take the first step, because it makes the second step that much easier. So what exactly am I saying? We all have dreams, goals, and aspirations. And in those dreams, goals, and aspirations, the one thing that will kill it all is procrastination. Move now. Opportunity favors the active. What am I saying? If you have an opportunity to do something, act on it now, because then you have the likelihood of being successful. Success is done by those who will follow their dreams in activity. And I know it seems like I'm talking in circle, but take the keys that I'm giving you. Move. Take the first step. Do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow isn't promised. Folks, move forward. If you're new in our industry or old in our industry and are ready to join the top 1% in earning a six-figure income, hop on the email list to get updates on the show and live notifications for the newest trends, or to be featured on the show as the Barber Spotlight of the Week. Let's go. Let's grow.